At this time, I'd like to welcome everyone to the April 8th, 2025 meeting of the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board. This time, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
All right. Jason Allen.
Present.
Christopher Caldwell. Okay. Wally Ferrara.
Present.
Okay. Ebony Hempel is excused. Ashley Huber.
Present.
Barb Miller.
Here.
Regina Miller.
Present.
Ooh, excuse me. Susan Stapleton.
Here.
Teresa Thrash. Okay. And Larry Tolbert has an excused absence. All right. So thank you for being here tonight in person as well as via the city's live stream platforms. Public comments will be accepted during the times as indicated in today's meeting agenda. Community members that wish to provide public comments over the phone can call 888-382-9556 during the citizen comments period. They will enter a queue and will be prompted to offer their comments in turn.
Are there any corrections or changes to the minutes? If none, can I have a motion to accept the minutes by consent?
I move that the motion, that the minutes be accepted by consent.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. At this time, we'll have the PCR report.
Set up for it.
When you're ready for the video.
You do it. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the board, Director Henderson, Patricia. It's good to see everyone. Inspector Mason's got a short, just a couple slides he's going to share with you. I'd like to start off by showing you a very quick video that talks a little bit about our Citizens Academy. I know a couple of you have signed up for it, so we're hoping that anyone that's watching out there can participate on May 17th on the Academy. So, can you see it? We've still got plenty of spots left open. We take 30. We have, I think, 18 have signed up. We're going to go really hard on our social media, so hopefully we can have more participants. And again, there's a one-day academy, all day Saturday. We'll have breakfast. We'll have lunch prepared. And it's a regional academy. Just a reminder that regional means that it's not only Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety, but it's the other departments such as Portage Township, Western Michigan University, State Police, and also the federal government drug enforcement agencies. So we're really excited about it. The other thing that we're going to do next month, it's in final review for two things: for the Office of Professional Standards annual report for 2024, and also the annual report for the Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety. Chair, Vice Chair will have that in the minutes. We'll give it to you right before the next meeting that we have. If not, and one final thing, if you have any questions from the chief's level, be happy to answer it. We have made 9 conditional offers we have final interviews, we have 9 conditional offers made. They're in the final stages, so hopefully all 9 will make it and we can welcome them as they go through the fire academy in May, and then they will go into the police academy in the fall. So, any questions for me at all?
Yeah, Chief Green, about the academy, first of all, I want to preface my comments that I've been to the Citizen Academy several times, and it's definitely swayed my opinion about the work that you guys do in the field. It's outstanding in the training, and sometimes it's when you not in a person's shoes, you have one perspective, but spend even a day in your guys' shoes, it definitely highlights the difficulty that you have, the split-second decisions that you must make, not only based on your policy, but your job is unique because you also face the perspective of the citizens. So to be able to walk that fine line, I definitely have to commend you on that. Is there any type of criteria or disqualifying that would prevent the citizen from attending?
No, we will run just a quick check to make sure that, there's no warrants or anything, of course, but you got to be 18 and older. We do not shoot live firearms like we used to. That was one of the restrictions that we had, where now we do the virtual reality special technology stuff that's pretty exciting. So 18 and over, and you can live anywhere in the region.
Thank you.
I, too, would also like to comment about how illuminating that entire process is. I had the opportunity to do the 2-day, and quite frankly, I thought it was just absolutely marvelous. Plus, you learn about other things that are happening in the neighborhoods, right? Because people are there and they're sharing their stories and sharing their concerns. So it's a great opportunity to not only learn about law enforcement, fire, and all of the things that you all encounter, but I think from an interaction standpoint, it's a great way for people to see what's happening out in the community.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, okay. All righty, if no other questions, I would turn it over to Inspector Mason.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, everyone. So if you have the PCR report in front of you, so as of March 31st, Kalamazoo Public Safety had 11 PCRs. Again, those are police-citizen relations complaints for 2025. 9 of these PCR investigations are closed. 1 is completed and being reviewed by the chiefs. That is where it says chiefs review. And the other is still under investigation. So are there any questions on this year's PCRs so far?
How are you doing, Inspector Mason?
Just fine, Michelle.
Good. Question, when it says unfounded, it's basically saying it doesn't happen. What is the basis that you come to unfounded? Is it the officer's report? Do you use video surveillance? How does the chief come to the conclusion of unfounded?
Yeah. So the term unfounded means that the alleged action did not occur. So my investigation, I'll use any available evidence that I have. So police reports, body-worn camera, obviously, since that is, we're all wearing them now in a uniform capacity, that has become it's become a very large component of my investigation is reviewing body camera, dash camera. I'll conduct interviews with officers if necessary, obviously talk to the citizen if I need more information that's not included in their complaint. So the investigation is pretty multifaceted. I just don't simply rely on the report itself. If there's other evidence there, I'm going to look at it.
And just looking at the data, is there any particular reason why there seems to be a trend in Zone 1 and Zone 2 with the complaints?
Zone 1 seems to always, you'll see the same thing with calls for service. They tend to take, I don't know if the majority, but compared to, we've got 7 zones in the city. Because Zone 1 is the downtown area, it's where most of your traffic is during the day. It's where most of the unhoused population is, that it tends to kind of, a lot of calls to service tend to, I guess, congregate here for lack of a better term. So you have more police activity, more calls for service, generation of just more complaints. Zone 2, it kind of goes back and forth. I mean, Zone 2 is a pretty large zone. It encompasses the Edison neighborhood and the Millwood neighborhood. It goes from Vine Street all the way down to Kilgore. So there's a very large population that comprises that.
But if I'm not mistaken, complaints are down.
Well, yes, they are down, mercifully.
So that's a good thing, and we hope that that trend continues.
Yes, we do. Any other questions PCR related? Okay. So is the screen still on? Can everybody still see it? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So last month, I had a short presentation on gun violence statistics, or violent crime in general, but we talked about gun violence. And I think Ms. Thrash had asked a question about why gun violence is down, or why are we seizing fewer guns off the street in the past year? What are we doing that's causing things to trend downward? So I wanted to have a very brief presentation, which is like 2 slides, about kind of the efforts that we're making that hopefully have had an impact in things trending that direction. So in the presentation last month, I included this chart, which shows the number of fatal and non-fatal shooting victims over the past 10 years. And you can see in 2020, our community saw gun violence absolutely skyrocket. We saw shooters and their victims becoming younger and younger. So since then, KDPS has worked alongside the community to reduce the incidence of gun violence, and consequently, the number of victims of gun violence. So these strategies have proven effective because the number of fatal shooting victims dropped by 50% and non-fatal by 30% in 24 from 23. And, knock on wood, these numbers continue to trend downward this year. So I wanted to briefly touch again on just some of the gun violence strategies that are used or supported by public safety to impact gun violence. So first is the utilization of crime data to guide deterrent strategies. So our data that we collect is gathered through raw crime stats, information shared or during our weekly multi-agency crime reduction meetings, through information gathered via the National Integrated Ballistic Information Network, or NIBIN, or through information that's provided to or learned by our crime analysts, officers, detectives, or any of our non-sworn personnel. So while this data informs our targeted intervention efforts by our enforcement personnel, it's also used to identify individuals who can benefit from non-enforcement interventions. And so one example of that is we have a program that was designed in-house by one of our analysts to kind of analyze contacts with juveniles. So if we have a juvenile in the community that has more than 2 police contacts within the past 30 days, a report is generated for review. And so then officers will view that report, determine whether the juvenile was an offender, a witness, victim, what have you. And then they and members of our community policing unit and our social services coordinator will meet with that juvenile and their parents to evaluate the need for any resources to help divert that person away from involvement in violent acts or any further police contact. So additional strategies also include, if you go to the second main bullet point, there are in-home visits by KDPS staff and members of our other government and non-government agencies. So these at-home visits include joint KDPS and MDOC, or Department of Corrections, prisoner reentry visits, where personnel meet with citizens who have been recently released from prison to speak with them and their families to offer support and services to provide a foundation for them returning to the community, to hopefully reduce any recidivism that might occur. For those on parole and probation, separate routine checks are conducted by public safety and MDOC personnel to ensure those individuals are complying with release requirements. And additionally, we have at-home visits that are done by public safety and Kalamazoo Public Schools staff with identified at-risk youth who are transitioning kind of in that phase for their life where they're going from middle school into high school with a brand new environment, hopefully divert any issues or prevent any issues that might have, that it would put them toward the road to being involved in violent acts. I guess lastly, but most importantly, the department recognizes that we can't arrest our way out of gun violence. It's clear to everybody, and that the effort to combat gun violence has to be driven by the community. So consequently, we have developed and maintained partnerships with a number of groups and organizations who can affect change by leveraging already existing relationships within communities. These groups assist citizens with resources needed to provide for more stable housing, income, governmental assistance, and a variety of other resources. So the goal of all these programs, whether it be from enforcement is one thing, like I said, but the goal of the kind of the additional programs are to help steer individuals away from decision-making that leads to participation in violence, or for those who are already involved in those acts to get them out of it. And again, though we're a law enforcement agency, we recognize that enforcement is only a part of the solution. So, these strategies have proven effective. We've seen the numbers have dropped over the past couple years, and we're dedicated to ensuring that they continue that way. So, are there any questions on that?
So is there any involvement, because I know you have the pastors on patrol, right? Are there any involvement of the pastors in reaching out to some of these individuals? In particular, because faith community can be very strong in supporting
Yes.
individuals.
Our community policing unit works closely with pastors on patrol. I would say probably those reentry visits, any of kind of the intervention solutions that we come up with, if there's a need if we identify that this is a place where our pastors on patrol group can help, or they can have kind of a purchase point to make an impact, we'll bring them in every time.
All right, thank you.
One question, basically, well, two questions. What are the leading indicators based off the data that you have that help the department strategize for the upcoming summer months? Because normally the summer is when we see an uptick in violence. And also, what organizations are you partnering with outside of like Pastors on Patrol? I know ALPAC has been trying to be one of the leading, partners to reduce gun violence, and is KDPS partnering with ALPAC to also reach the community to reduce gun violence?
Yeah, I would see some of the leading indicators. I'll just give kind of one example. We keep close track or an eye on where our, group-involved violence is. Not necessarily gangs, and we've moved away from that language years ago, but groups of individuals who are kind of driving gun violence, especially when these groups kind of clash. So that is one example of us keeping track of the existence of these groups, who their members are, what they're participating in, during the school year, and all of a sudden, because you're exactly right, as soon as the kids get out of school, or there's more people out on the streets with a lot of free time, that's when we see our gun violence explode. So I think some of the, one way we do it is keeping track of group activity even prior to the summer letting out. I didn't want to mention specific community groups because I knew that I was not going to remember them all, and I didn't want to upset anybody by forgetting them. But I'll just give one example. We've been involved with the Blueprint for Peace, which is a Michigan Transformation Collective, I believe is, if I'm getting that wrong, is running that. I don't know, Chief, if you want to speak a little bit on ALPAC, or if you can provide any more information. Anyway, go ahead.
I think one of the things that's been extremely helpful, and intentionally we've been doing this at the department for the last 5 years, is accessibility to different folks within the department. So many of you have been to the quarterly meetings that Kalamazoo Public Safety have, and the chief, I think everyone in the city of Kalamazoo has a cell phone. He puts his cell phone there. We also have our community collaborator, LaTanya Turner, and it's amazing how much information that the community provides to her that helps us to prevent crimes, and also gives us additional information, so it allows us to have access to different organizations. So I think the biggest thing that we've had in the last few years is how the community has direct access to the department to be able to relay information. Hope that was helpful, or did you?
It was, and I guess a follow-up question is, does your department reach out to other departments within the state and nationally to see what programs or lessons learned from their programs to help reduce the gun violence?
Yeah, not only that, not nationally or locally also, or when I say locally, within the state, we constantly send our officers, and even from the chiefs on down, to different programs, and we come back when we have trainings to find what are best practices and how we implement. Prime example, the gun amnesty program that we have. The chief went to a conference in Washington, D.C. Gun amnesty program is where anyone can turn in a gun at a local church that's participating in. So you walk into your room, one of your child has a gun, it's hidden away, you don't know what to do. You can take the gun to one of the participating churches, drop it off. There's a gun case there. The pastor would take care of whatever the church it is. No questions asked, and it's taken down, and we would take it to and put it in safekeeping. We've had 8 guns this year turned in. So those partnerships that we have, and that was a great example of a best practice that we got from another department, I believe out of Tennessee, that we took their model and implemented here. So we have quite a few. GBI is another example. I think it was implemented, I wasn't here 10 or 15 years ago, out of New York. So we do take quite a few different practices to make sure, and we mold it to our department.
Thank you.
Yep.
I just wanted to kind of add to that as well. Every week there's a community partnership meeting the department holds with nonprofit organizations at the department, so that we're sharing information that can help them accomplish their mission better. And there are other agencies or other gun violence reduction programs around the country that we've seen where there's no communication between, or no collaboration between, the nonprofit groups that are working at a community level and local law enforcement. And we kind of looked at that and said, we don't understand how that can be successful, because you need the information sharing to do it correctly. I mean, like I said, enforcement is one side of it, and I do believe it has to be done. There's those you certainly cannot reach, and that's where enforcement comes into play, or if needed for intervention. But that basic community level where you can leverage those relationships that are already existing are even more important. So certainly we are, our reduction strategy can't exist without the community.
Other questions?
Sure.
Just one more and I'm done. When you discuss community involvement, which is something that's very important with the current political environment, have you seen a decrease in the community involvement?
Yeah, I would say in the opposite direction. There is more involvement, because I believe people are worried, they're concerned about whether it be their own family or their neighbors or their friends. And it certainly hasn't decreased.
Thank you.
Of course. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
At this point, I'd like to open it up for board member comments. We were to have a report out on the report on the Policy 339, Fuses Camera Integration and Monitoring Platform, but we're going to take that into our after session to allow our new members to fully comment on it before we report out on that. So we'll postpone that till another meeting. So at this time, I'd just like to thank Vice Chair Allen for facilitating the meeting last month in my absence. So thank you for stepping up and doing that. Any other board member comments at this time? Okay, I don't hear any, so we'll move on to citizen comments. And next is the opportunity for general public comments. Speakers will have 3 minutes for their comments. We will start with anyone in person, and then go to call-in speakers. People who want to offer comments via phone should call 888-382-9556, starting now through the end of this public comment period. While the Citizens Public Safety Review and Appeal Board welcomes your comments, this is not a time for dialogue between speakers and board members or city staff. So that your comments can be addressed, we ask you to provide your contact information. Also, please be mindful of the time limit and finish your sentence when the time does expire. I do not see anyone waiting to give any comments in person. Are there any call-in comments?
I'm checking now, Chair. There are no call-in comments.
Thank you. At this time, we'll move on to announcing our upcoming meetings. The next meeting is May 13th, and the following month it's on June 10th. At the same time, 6 p.m. in the Commission chambers. At this time, if there are no other comments or announcements, I'd like to adjourn the meeting, and we will move into a closed work group session. Meeting is now adjourned.